Thank you, Diwani. Is that really me? Yes, 18 years I've been involved with Toastmasters. And when Diwani and Atul asked me to do this presentation, one of the things that immediately came into my mind was, what do you know about preparing and delivering a speech for the International Speech Contest? And that's where the title came from, He Who Knows. And if you look at the top of that presentation, there's that proverb, he who knows, and it says, he who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. Avoid him. He who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a student. Teach him. He who knows and knows not that he knows is asleep. Wake him. And he who knows and knows that he knows is a wise man. Follow him. And when I saw that, it brought back memories to the first time I got involved in the speech contest. Because I didn't know much about the International Speech Contest. I fell into it. And I got surprises along the way. And some of those surprises, I'm sure, may be pretty obvious to some of you now. Like, how many speeches should you go into the speech contest with?
6.
At least 6.
Really? How many speeches should you go into the competition
2
with?
now.
2 now.
2 now.
These would be 3.
Okay, I say 3. And when it was 3, I say 4. Okay?
Just in case.
Just in case. 1 for practice. But now you should have two speeches that you're very comfortable with. 1, so that those 2 speeches don't become stale as you go along practicing. And you would find that if you look at the rules for the competition and really examine this booklet, which is available to you online, and the URL is there, you will see it takes you through all of the aspects, all of the things that you should be cognizant of when preparing for the International Speech Contest. Yes, we all know you have to have had 6 speeches at the Competent Communicator level, and if you're a district of under 10, 1 person is eligible to move forward at the district, all those things. You will find all of that information there. So we don't want to spend too much time on that today. But please, take some time and go through this manual, because he who knows not the rules risks disqualification. Whereas he who knows not the rules risks disqualification. And pay attention to all of them, including eligibility, which club, if you are eligible to represent a club, because they check at Toastmasters International. Okay? So we can put this one to bed? All right. Now, let's get into topic selection. What type of topics should you prepare? Should you, what type of topics do you think you should, that are best? This is a workshop.
Personal stories.
So, personal stories, yes, personal stories.
Things that are general, motivational, or dealing with
issues that people have in being successful in life sometimes work well.
Okay.
Inspirational.
Inspirational.
Something that tells a lesson?
Something with a lesson. Yeah, all of those are good. But I believe in something that I believe that the presentation, your story, you should be passionate about what it is you are going to present. You should be passionate about it. Because when you stand in front of that audience, they are going to look at you, and if they believe you, if you're believable, if you're convincing, if you're able to sell that story, you will be successful. But if they say, there's doubt, I don't, you know what I mean. So you have to be passionate about the story you are presenting. Agreed?
Yeah.
How many of you believe you have a passionate story that you can present? You have a passionate story. Good.
Tell it now.
Let's support him in the contest.
We will support you. Passionate story. Now that we have the story, where does it begin? Where does the preparation for the International Speech Contest begin? It begins right here. And I could not have said it best than what was said to David Brooks on one occasion. I have a speech that I'm sure is good enough to win at the International Speech Contest. But I'm not sure it is good enough to win at the club level. Now think about that statement for a minute. This is something someone told David Brooks. David, I need your help. David asked, why? He said, I have a speech I'm sure can win. I'm sure. So where does it begin? It begins right here. It begins with these two manuals. This is the old version. I'm dating myself. This is one of the first ones I ever had. Begins right here. If you take the time to go back to basics and really focus on these 10 speeches, you will be, it will help you tremendously to prepare for the next level and the next level. Do you believe? Do you? How many of you are following each project religiously, following the guidelines? I want to say, I believe strongly that if you, this will help you prepare, it will help you with all of the different aspects of speaking. I remember the first time I took part at the international speech level, it was in Monterey. One of the things I did in a part of my speech, I spoke and I had my hands in my pocket like that. I came second in that competition, way back. And one of the judges said to me, "You never speak with your hands in your pocket." That was way back then. These little things. Had I followed the guidelines, followed it, Competent Communicator, tell you about using your hands. So the next time I started practicing, I stuck one of my hands. just to get accustomed to using. How many times people have told you to drop one hand? Drop one hand and stay where I put. Don't do this. Very easy. Practice using one hand. Practice, practice. We'll get into all of that here. But let's talk a little more about topic selection. Speak about what you know about. What you know. And you really believe that you know. So when you have a topic and you start building, the passion is raging, the ideas are flowing, what do you do next? Anybody?
Start writing.
Start writing. Put it all out. Let it flow. Put it down on paper. And when you have it all down, what's the next thing you do?
Organize it.
Hmm?
Organize it.
Organize. Well, let me make a suggestion to you. And I should have handed this out before. Pass. Pass. One of the things that I find very helpful is to take a blank piece of paper take a blank piece of paper like this and fold it. Into 4 squares. Now I'm giving away all my secrets, huh? And then increase it like this. Okay?
The folded side or the open side?
The long side.
The folded side or the open side?
Any side.
Oh, any side? Oh.
All right. So now what are we going to do with this? We're going to open it. Now this is something I learned from a guy who worked with Nelson Mandela when he was transitioning him from prison to freedom. And I tried it out a few times and I found it to be very helpful. Now what are we going to do with this? We're going to write our main theme down here. Got it? And the reason you're going to do that is because you want that theme to run throughout the speech. One of the mistakes we make is to write the title or the theme at the top of the page. But if you write it down the middle here, as you address these 4 boxes, you are going to be cognizant. You're going to focus on the theme. Now we start to write. In this box, we're going to write all the things we know about the speech. This is what we know. So just write what you know. Over here, we're going to write what you don't know. Of course, that's where where research comes in. Here you're going to write what you know that you know that you know. You're so sure. Somebody can wake you up at midnight and ask you something about that speech, and you can answer right away, like your name, because you really know it. And in this box, we're going to write what you don't know that you don't know. And sometimes this is about the toughest box to fill in. What you don't know that you don't know. And one of the things I do after I write all these things down, I would then take 3 from each box. 3 from each box. Three of the things from each box. Because one of the things you have to remember is you have 5 to 7 minutes. Not 5 to 7 hours. So you're gonna have a lot of stuff. Now you start to cull the data. You start trying to decide what it is going to be important to this particular audience as I look at this piece of paper and what I have, what I'm delivering. The next thing some people do, and there's a debate about it, some people decide from there they write what?
Your speech.
An outline.
They write the conclusion. Because this is what they want the audience to take away. This is what they want the audience to remember. So they look at this section here, what it is, that main theme, what it is about. 5 years from now, if I ask, what did Duani speak about? They remember. You got it? So you have something now to work with. You have a roadmap, and you're doing your writing, or you're recording, or whatever method you're going to use to make sure you have this speech recorded, written, however. How many of you write out your speeches? How many of you don't believe in writing out your speeches? Okay. Good. All right. How many of you record your speeches? Good. Whatever works for you. But it is important to have that speech when it's completed. I could remember some of the very first speeches I delivered. It was midnight, and the stars were still dancing up in the heavens. Like a dragon in heat, the sun was still shining down on that was a tall tale from way back. Baseball is America's favorite pastime. But to me, it's much more than just a game, as it has taught me many valuable lessons about winning at the biggest game of them all, the game of life. Mr. Toastmaster. So when you write your speeches out, I believe you retain. So I would like to suggest to you, after you have your roadmap ready, you start writing. Could be the introduction, could be the conclusion, the takeaway. I like to start with the takeaway because I believe that is what is going to linger with the audience. How are we doing so far? But as you write your speech, go back to your school days and think about all the different things your teachers taught you. Similes, alliteration, even the parts of speech. Very important. Because when people can identify those techniques, you see a reaction, you see a smile. That tells you that you are connecting with your audience. How many of you think those speaking techniques that you learned from way back in school, how many of you deliberately put them into your speeches? Do you do that? Anybody? Oh, good.
I try to.
You try to? Good. But be conscious of it. Once you're conscious of it, that's a good place to start. Alliteration, metaphors, active voice, passive voice, all of those speaking techniques, those things you learned in English classes, put it into your speech. So, we have an introduction. We know what we know. We know, well, what we don't know. What we know that we know that we know. Because sometimes that gives you a good idea as you fill out the 4 boxes. If this is really something I want to give to my audience, I want to deliver. Yeah.
Since this is the workshop, is it okay if I ask the
Sure.
question? The 4th quadrant, what you don't know that you don't know? Can you give an example or a tip on how to fill out that box?
Well,
Or
it depends also on the type of speech that you're delivering now. When what you don't know that you don't know. One of the things, the obvious things about that is, I don't know how this audience is going to take this. What we don't know that we don't know. Right? I don't know, you have a topic, as you research the topic, the future is always something that we don't know,
Things beyond your control.
Things beyond your control. Perfect. And that plants a seed, especially when it's well thought out. It plants a seed in the minds of the audience, leaves them thinking, and that's what you want to do. So, when we have this speech, the next thing we want to do is to name the speech, which leads us to titles. Should you give away the entire speech to your title? Absolutely not. I'll give you a good example. The silent game. What is that speech about? The silent game.
chess?
Good try. The silent game.
Could be about body language.
Dumb chat.
Baseball.
Baseball.
Baseball, right.
Baseball. There's an entire plethora of signals that you see. But if you tell somebody, if you tell your audience before, baseball, the silent game, people who don't like sports, who don't like baseball, maybe immediately, maybe an immediate turn off for them. But the silent game, what is that all about? Now you're piquing their curiosity. So you stand a much better chance of holding on to that audience. And on one occasion when I delivered that speech, one of the comments was, well, I didn't like baseball, but I never knew that baseball was so involved. And I wasn't even thinking about baseball. I was thinking about the signs. Because all those signs have meanings. And you can do all of this and this and this and this, and then you do like that. What does that mean? Forget everything I just said. So find ways of reaching your audience. And as you go through the data, now you're going to start planning your points of attack. You're going to start planning your points of attack. And usually I use the 4 H's. The first place I want to touch is the head. Going straight for the head. I want to have you thinking, this guy's a jerk. What the hell? Am I to believe that? You may start with an outrageous statement. Okay. But even if they don't believe you, even if they don't like what you just said, you still have their interest. And that's what you want. So we go for the head. And then you want to backtrack a little or soften a little. So the next point of attack would be to get them to soften a bit also. So you go for the heart. Start with the head. Go for the heart. If you keep them on a high, keep tension, you're going to lose them. So you add a little humor. Right? Add a little humor. Touch the head, the heart, soften them up a bit, the little humor, you get them to do all the heavy lifting for you. Because now you have them on your side. And that's what you want. How many of you have tried that as a technique in your, good. Has it worked for you?
It was just last Friday, it did.
You want to tell us about it?
Well, I don't want to give it away because I'm doing that speech here in April.
Okay.
But it was trying to find a fine line between how much humor I can insert in the serious story, like, to kind of keep that balancing act, to do some of that. It worked well. At least that's what they told me.
Well, one of the things people always ask me is, is there a formula for the international speech contest, or is there a formula for the humorous speech contest? For the humorous speech contest, I definitely say yes, there is a formula. 20 laughs, 5 chuckles. If you can get your audience to laugh 20 times and chuckle 5 times, and one belly full, of course. You got that. International speech contest, 5 laughs, 20 chuckles. Turn it around. Because you got them, you're working the audience. And they're working with you. All right? One of the things that you have to focus on as you prepare that speech is something we call a magic moment. I got this from David Brooks. I got it from Darren LaCroix. We used to do a cruise every year. I did about 3 of them with the Champion's Edge. And we would work on just the magic moment. Just the magic moment of your speech. What is the magic moment? Anybody?
Aha moment.
Moment? Because your magic moment to one person may not be a magic moment to another person. But the magic moment is usually that point in the speech that will always be remembered. That will always be remembered. Okay? One of the things that we didn't focus on, I skipped over, was the speech title. The speech title suggestion, keep it short, and don't give away the entire speech with the speech title. The magic moment also is another very important part of the speech, and you have to strategically place that magic moment. It should not, I wouldn't put it at the beginning, I wouldn't put it at the end. I would put it somewhere in the middle of the speech. Okay? Any of you can recall your magic moments in a speech? That moment where people see you today and say, hey, I still remember when you took that ball out. I still remember. Got it? Work on your magic moment. Work on it and make sure you test it, because sometimes it may work in one room, may not work in another. So when we get to evaluations at the end of it all, we will talk more about that. Got it?
How do you know that it worked or not?
By testing. You have to test it.
And you test it, and then how do you evaluate?
In the evaluation portion, you have to, again, we're coming back to he who knows. Make sure you test it with people who you trust and people who you will take advice from.
Okay.
Plus,
Very important.
Plus the reaction.
And reaction.
They mentioned it on their own, later on.
Right? Now, yes, you're preparing a speech, but you're not going to talk all the time from beginning to end. You're going to use silence also. You're going to use silence. And you're going to use, well, how are you going to use this silence? You're going to use it in your power statements. You're going to use silence in your power statements. Silence sends the message. Silence sends the message. And when you place your words, each sentence, as you have this, you go through every sentence and decide where you're going to place words and where you're going to place silence. Very important. Simple example. Tell me the difference you feel. Money is the root of all evil, as opposed to money is the root of all evil. You see the effect? Just as you're working the sentence, each sentence, you are to think of where you're going to put the silence. And very important, when you have your speech all written out, and it flowed, now you're going to take that, each sentence, and ask yourself the question, how can I say this better with less words? And I always use the Seinfeld example. Seinfeld said sometimes it will take him months to bring a 15-word sentence down to 5 words and have the same effect. Now, sometimes I think that Seinfeld just has a lot of time on his hands. But he's well paid. Okay? How are we doing so far? Silence and pauses, the pregnant pause. The pregnant pause. But one thing you must never do. When you pause, you look up to the heavens. That's a dead giveaway. Oh my God, you lost this place. That pause could be very effective, the pregnant pause. You have to use it. You have to work it. And in every successful speech, world champion speech, one of the things I do is I buy the world champion speeches every year and I review them. And I look for those things, the pauses, the pregnant pause. I used to lend this out to people in this club, and after losing a couple, I decided I will not continue. But I would advise you to get copies of those speeches that made it all the way, and look for all of those things that we just spoke about. And you will find the pregnant pause in almost all of the successful speeches. You'll find it somewhere strategically placed. Now, after you've done all of this hard work, you are not going to go on that stage and go over time. I mean, we had one case a couple years ago. How many of you remember Bobby? Bobby, yeah. Bobby went over time. But how many of you really know that story? Bobby deliberately went over time. Because Bobby knew that was going to be his last hurrah. He knew that was going to be his last speech. He died months after. And when I spoke to Bobby, one of the things he said, Henry, I didn't come to give a speech. I came to do a message. And he was that committed. And people go to the International Speech Contest for different reasons. And if, I don't know how many of you know Bobby, but he was a Toastmaster. And he was one of those Toastmasters who really believed in better speaking. And his message that day was, don't ask somebody else to do the dirty work for you. You do it. You do it. And even when when he told his mother that he was going to march with Dr. King, and the mother said, Bobby, don't do it. He said, Mama, I have to do it. You taught me, don't let somebody do the dirty work for me. I must do it. And he went against his mother's words. That was what his speech was all about. That was such a powerful speech. It could not be delivered in 5 to 7 minutes. So the point I'm making is, going back to your topic selection, select a speech that you can deliver in 5 to 7 minutes. And how do you do that? The first thing you got to do is to find your rate of speaking. Very good speech to use to get your rate of speaking is the Gettysburg Address. Google it. The Gettysburg Address. Google it, get a stopwatch, and read it as you will deliver a speech. Your speaking style. And at the end of 1 minute, you stop and you check the number of words. Average, men speak at 125 words a minute. Women always have a little more to say in less time, 130 to 150. Okay? Multiply that number by 6. Take the middle, because you're leaving room for pauses, laughter, that pregnant pause we spoke about, all of that. Got it? And my magic number is 750. Whenever I prepare a speech, I try to hit 750. You will discover your magic number will be somewhere between 750 and 780. Do you have a magic number? Anybody? Do you?
700.
700. Anybody?
750.
750.
800.
800. Okay. 750 to 800, you're in the ballpark. You should be able to complete that speech in 5 to 7 minutes. We have the points. Going back to this sheet. What we know, what we don't know, what we know that we know, what we don't know that we don't know. Somewhere around here, right? SMP. SMP. SMP, story makes the point. As you select your strongest points in those boxes, for each one, you're going to tell a story. The story makes the point. Now, some people go to the competition with a one-point story, beginning to end. I know of only one that made it all the way. Anybody?
David Henderson.
David Henderson? What was that speech about?
It was the aviator. He just won this year.
Okay, the aviator, right? But that makes 2. But no, he had vignettes in there. He had vignette 1, vignette 2. Yes? Yes, he had a vignette about
That was all about him and his girlfriend.
about his girlfriend, and when she was in the hospital and sick and going through. That's a vignette. Okay.
Ed Tate.
All right, well, Ed Tate.
Ed Tate.
Ed Tate. One of those days. That's a very difficult thing to pull off. Let's say a one vignette speech where you start, you start with the idea and it runs and it completes without going into vignette 2, vignette 3. Yeah.
Is a vignette an anecdote?
No, not really. Think of ouch. First, he fell on his face. That was Darren LaCroix. Remember that speech? Have you ever heard it?
No.
Okay. He started out, he fell on his face. He decided to open a sandwich shop. Remember that? What next?
Rockets.
The Rocket. What was that? In
Boston.
I don't know.
and he took. He's talking about.
Something falls.
Some
place called Falls.
No.
No?
He's talking about in Arkansas. Was it Arkansas? Arkansas. Yeah. The rocket took off in Arkansas and landed in Arkansas.
That was awesome.
So you had vignettes that but they all tied together the same speech.
So that was one speech, and these are different
Yeah.
scenes, kind of.
You got it?
Does the theme change throughout them as well?
No.
Just so I'm clear, these are supposed to center around the 3, right?
Yeah, the line going running here was, ouch! What happens when you fall on your face? Do you stay down? That's what he asked at the very beginning. No! You get up, dust yourself off, and try again. You got it? Theme running down the speech. That's it. All right? I wanted to leave a little time, and I knew we would be short, we would be hard pressed, but we have to do some of the things you have to deal with as you do the presentation, as you deliver the presentation. I just wanted to stick this in, that for goodness sake, when you're talking about a happy part of the speech, be happy. When you're talking about, when you're referring to a sad part of the speech, pretend, even if you have to. Pull up for an acting job. Be sad. It looks weird when you're talking about a sad speech with a smile on your face. And I've seen it happen so many times. But the 6 emotions that we humans all relate to, think about them. I have them here. Okay? Think about them as you deliver your speech. Happiness, sadness, surprise, anger, fear, and disgust. Okay? One more thing I want to talk about before we go into Q&A. Salutations. Some people don't believe we should include that in our speeches. You know what I'm talking about? Mr. Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Now let me give you an example. Love and marriage, according to that song, goes together like a horse and carriage. But that may be before both husband and wife start calling each other those names, fitting only for that part of the horse that always faces the carriage. Mr. Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters and guests. Now remember one thing, while you are doing that, somebody is standing there, Toastmaster, waiting to be acknowledged. So you don't want to leave that guy standing there for too long, as I've seen happen so many times. As opposed to, Mr. Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters and guests, has there ever been a time in your life when you felt like you had a brilliant idea, one that could change the world? But just as you began to reach for that goal, your dream, along came a Mr. or Mrs. Right to show you every little thing that can go wrong. And although you knew in your heart that you were right, and those rights were wrong, what did you do? Did you follow your dream? Or did you surrender? You surrendered. So you get the Mr. Toastmaster out of it. If I had waited all that time, that guy would be standing there waiting to be acknowledged. You don't want to do that. So decide where you're going to place it. At the very beginning, or if it's a long introduction, or work it in. The tango is often referred to as the dance of life. Why? Because it takes two to tango. Now I'm sure you have heard that cliche many times before, but Mr. Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters and guests, you're working in. Okay? Any questions? Yeah.
What if you tell the Toastmaster, hey, don't wait for money?
Well, that's what you do at the very beginning. You tell him, I'm not going to acknowledge you.
Oh, so you can do that.
You can do that, but I am not going to acknowledge you.
Right.
And the judges, I'm telling you, some of them are old Toastmasters. You hear those words? I am not going to acknowledge you. Tradition. Think about it. It's up to you. I just want to add also, try and have your tools. a book to write your daily occurrences, daily interaction with people. Okay? Your story file. Build it. Treasury of quotes. Very useful. Okay? And of course, try and build your library. I have mine, and it has helped me quite a lot. Okay, what else do we have?
In the very bottom, you said introduction, salutation, vignette 1, 2, and 3. Yet on our paper, you said find the top 3 of each square. So
Yeah, but this is what you know, what you don't know, what you know that you know, and what you don't know that you don't know. You're pulling all of this information, and from this information, you are going to start writing your speech. And you're going to write, you have your introduction, you're going to decide if you're going to have vignette 1, 2, or 3 vignettes, how many ever, or just one vignette, right through. You're going to make that decision and your conclusion. Got it?
so you choose from that
From
section
there.
for your vignettes.
Yes.
Just to add on to that, another thing that Darren says a lot is that when he wrote his championship speech on Ouch, he wrote down 25, 50 ideas on different stories he could tell, and then he chose the ones that fit best. And I think it's really, that's what Henry's saying is, what do you know? Put it all down here, and now choose what works best.
And I have the worksheet from Darren when he wrote that speech. I have the actual worksheet. He shared it with us on the ship just after he won the international speech contest. Yeah. Because when you start writing, you're gonna see a lot of stuff that you want to tell the audience, a lot of stuff that you want to share with the audience, but you're gonna say, I have keep it 5 to 7 minutes. That's all I have. You know.
Your first comment when you opened up the presentation was the quote by David Brooks, that the person had a winning speech but didn't know how to make it a winning speech at the
Club level.
club level.
Yeah.
So can you take us through what you do at the club level, the next level, and next level, until you are up at the level of the contestant, being the final contestant? Are all of the speeches different? Are there different emphasis?
Well, you know, one of the things I always tell people that I work with, you know, I had a lot of trophies at one point. They're all boxed up now because I just moved. And I used to tell them, if you're entering the competition to win a trophy, I have a couple out there. Take one and be happy. You know, if you're entering the competition to become a better speaker, let's work. Because a lot of the stuff that we have done, and I have done with some people in this room, like Vish, involves even going up and down the hills. And I'm sure to build your breathing. Walk in the hills and delivering the speech while you're walking the hills.
Did you guys do that?
Did we do it, however? Yep, we did it.
Good.
And I tell you, in the very beginning, it's tough to actually speak and to walk and speak. It's tough. And as you do it, and you do it a few times, you would find that it becomes easier, and then you know that your breathing is working. So, at the club level, you're not going to do all of that. Okay. At the club level, you are in a club. You know the kinds of speeches. You know the quality of speeches. You deliver something that you believe is appropriate for your club. We always have a favorite son in every club. We have it. We know. And you know if this speech can win at the club level. Now, if that is your objective, to win at the international speech level or to go all the way through, I would start preparing a speech that I believe is good enough to go all the way. And wherever it takes me, fine. Because you have to go through the division level, the club level, division level, district level. right? And now
Area.
you're lucky, yeah, area, of course. You're lucky you can also take that speech to the first level of the international speech contest. Before, you had to prepare a speech that took you all the way to district. From district, you had to prepare a new speech to go to the regional level, and another speech to go to.
Do you actually like dumb down your speech at the club level if you think that it's not going to be, that's not going to win? I've heard you say that before as well. And I'm curious, you know, if you think that your club doesn't get motivational speeches, say they like humor, you know, would you change, like knowingly change the speech to make it more acceptable to the club, and then kind of tweak it as you go at the higher levels?
Well, again, we come right back to why are you giving the speech? If you're giving the speech to win, do whatever you have to. If that's your purpose, then you're going to do whatever you feel you need to do to win. But if you're doing the speech according, like Bobby did, to deliver a message, you will give it your best. Give it what you know. And I've done that before. Yeah. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about head versus heart for just a second.
Yeah.
Because if you thought about Darren McCroy's speech, he really talks more to the head than to the heart. And you look at David Henderson's speech, he really took way to the heart. I mean, that was a tearjerker. He cried and everyone in the audience cried.
He didn't kill anybody on stage. Okay. Was it deliberate?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
He did a great job.
Which one?
Both. But
Okay. But they didn't kill anybody on stage.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Too often, we try to tug at the heart by killing somebody on stage. It happens, I mean, so often,
Yes.
you know.
That little girl died.
But you never use the word death.
That's not what you cried about.
No.
You cried about that darn scarf.
I guess you have the tape, right? You have it. Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, look at this. Look at the speech. These speeches, you learn so much. Darren's when Darren fell down flat on his face, which was choreographed and he worked it out. One of the things he did was, did you think I stayed down too long? Remember that? Where is he appealing to? The heart. What do you do when you fall on your face? Now, when he fell on his face, Jim Key was in the wings. And Jim Key thought, oh my God, he just lost it. It was such an outrageous move. Now, you have to have something that will hit your audience. I remember once when I was working with one speaker, I tried to convince him to turn his back to the audience. Start your speech turning, facing the other way. Couldn't do it. Said, can't do it. Sent a letter off to David Brooks. I still have the letter. When do you turn your back to an audience? David sent back a note to me, when it's appropriate. Didn't do it. The following year he did it. And he did well. But the first year, couldn't do it.
Darren LaCroix says it's about finding your 11.
Finding your 11.
Like, well, everything else has got to be 10
Yep.
par with all your
Yep.
competitors. And
Yep,
find
we
your
always
11.
talk about the grip, the suitcase. The suitcase with the weight counter on it. The weight counter was the 11. You can go out and buy the best suitcase. But he thought, well, if I put a weight counter on the suitcase and I lift it, it tells me how heavy it weighs. That's my 11. That's what's going to make people buy the suitcase. You have to find your 11. And the last thing I want to say is, look, when you have done all of this and you're ready, don't go changing and changing and changing because this person tells you that's not going to work. Make up your own evaluation sheet, the things that you want to test, and ask questions.